SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. First of all, Lena, you went with me to a round table with all the law enforcement agents in Tulsa, the district attorney, our own deputy assistant attorney general, and then the deputy chief of police. What did you think of seeing all that brass in one spot there?
It was very interesting and really very formative. They didn't have a lot of time for us yesterday. Hopefully we get to speak with someone, a representative for one of those attorney's office later this year or something for more information about that. But I found it really interesting and more informative from what I've heard about it.
Right. Now, being a young reporter, young to our staff, that was kind of the first time you've been aired out like that. What did you think of that whole situation?
Yeah, at first I didn't think how it was going to be, being my first press conference attending, and it was a good experience, I believe, just seeing all the other media outlets there and just being engaged or having them engaged with us and us with them was very good, and I know they gave us time to talk to them afterwards, so that was
right.
good too. So
okay, well, I think those other reporters are going to sit up and take notice of us now. Let's get on with our first interview. Mr. Harjo, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Gary.
Hi. Now, I'm sitting here with our reporter, Lainey Hansen, here, and we're going to be doing our program. But first of all, for folks who don't know, I saw you on local TV news report working with a 3D printer. And with the name Harjo, I was obviously intrigued. I said, there's a creek going off in another direction there. But first of all, real quick, who are you and then your family?
Yeah, so my name is Jason Michael Harjo, and I'm from Henrietta, and I have a fairly large family. I don't know how much about them you want to know, but...
well, I know there are a lot of Harjos, so maybe we won't go too far.
Well, my father is Warren Harjo, also known as Bubba Harjo. He's well known in the community. And then, my mom is Paula Harjo, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Well, now, as I referred, we saw you in that TV news report working with a 3D printer, doing some unusual product. First of all, tell us, for our listeners who aren't familiar, what is a 3D printer? I mean, we're all familiar with two-dimensional documents and things like this, but this goes a step further.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3D printing is it's been around for a while, but it's another manufacturing technology, and it actually builds parts instead of having to machine them away from a stock metal or something like that. And so the best way to think about 3D printing to kind of get it in your minds is to think of like a hot glue gun, building layer upon layer until you have this part. And so it takes it from nothing and just builds it into layer by layer. That is the most simple version of 3D printing that you can describe. So
that's like laying pieces of paper on top of each other until you get a complete object.
Absolutely.
But it's not
that's
paper.
That's a great
right?
way to look at it. It's not paper. But
what is it actually?
Yeah, so we print in both plastic and in metal. And on the news, we were talking about metal 3D printing.
And what is the product that you finally come up with?
Yeah, so we've came up with several products. The one that they talked about on the news was a UHT atomizer, which stands for ultra high turn down atomizer. And an atomizer basically mixes fuel and steam so that it burns very efficiently. And some engineers in our Poole, England office came up with this new design, and it can only be 3D printed. And it gave a very large performance increase over the previously traditionally manufactured atomizer. And when I say significant, the performance increase was around 70%. So that's a big jump, and saves the customer a lot of fuel, and it was a great design.
Now, what is an atomizer and what's it used for?
Yeah, an atomizer, it mixes fuel and steam to burn very efficiently, and it's installed in burners. And in this case, it was a steam propulsion burner that is installed on a large tanker ship.
All right. Now, that sounds like a whole lot of complicated learning that you had to do before you got to this level. Is your profession there kind of a difficult one, specialized for someone to get into?
Yeah, so my profession, my title is design manager, and I've been with John Zink Company for 13 years. And I focus on the 3D modeling side of the products that we produce. And so you have to have a 3D model generated with CAD software, and putting that into a slicing program is how you get the 3D printer to print the products. And so my background is in 3D modeling and design, and so I was tasked with leading an additive manufacturing initiative in our company. And additive manufacturing is the official term for 3D printing. And so I've been a part of the additive manufacturing side of our business for around 5 years now.
And what drew you into this? Was there some spark along the way when you discovered that people could print actual objects from with this process? Did you learn about it in school or online on the internet? How did that come about?
Yeah, I actually learned about it probably online first and then also at work. But I have a real passion for technology and innovation. And in our company, we have guiding principles, and one of those principles is transformation. And so I work for a company where transformation isn't just something that we do every day. It's who we are at the core of our culture. And so I was very excited and motivated to dig into this technology and just bring as much value as possible, not only to our customers, but to our employees and also to the community.
What does your family think? Jason's working for John Zink, obviously a name Oklahomans know, but fancy schmancy machinery there. He's doing all these wonderful things. What does your folks and your kinfolk think about it?
They think it's pretty cool. They have to ask me what I do, and I explain it to them, and they explain it to others, and but they're pretty excited about it also. They think it's cool.
A lot of your explanation to us kind of went over my head, being not so techie type. But do they understand what you're doing, and do you think you're accomplishing a career goal there?
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely understand, and for me personally, it's definitely accomplishing a career goal. Just because I'm getting to do what I'm passionate about. When I go to work every day, I'm really excited to go to work, and I have a lot of fun in this technology.
Yeah, it sounds kind of satisfying to see this. All the schemes in typewriter, keyboard strokes turn into this this thing, this this 3D product here, and I could see how that would be happening. Now, you being a Creek and of course part of Oklahoma's heritage, how does the John Zink Company take your being on staff and understand your heritage and are respectful of it?
Yeah, so our company is very diverse, and there are several Creek Indians and other tribes that work there, and so it's a great company to work for, and I'm really proud to be there and proud of my Creek heritage also as a John Zink employee.
Okay, well, wondering where your future goes here. I presume you're going to be continuing in the field of 3D printing. Are you going to come up with any turtle shell rattles or anything like that?
Well, I could print you a turtle shell rattle today, probably. We could do it in plastic or metal.
Oh boy, could revolutionize the stomp dance industry then.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could really bring some technology there.
Oh boy, of course, some of the old timers may say, "Hey, what's that boy doing there?" Now, if you were being asked by, say, a class of young students about what you do and how you accomplish that and your heritage, what would you be telling them?
Yeah, so if I was talking to a group of students, I would talk about the pride of my Oklahoma heritage as a Creek and our culture and our history. And when it comes to the technology side of things, I would tell them first and foremost, you have to work hard. That's the main thing you need to do. You got to work hard. You have to be disciplined, and you have to work hard in the little things to get to the big things. And so I've worked hard for a lot of years to get where I am, and it's been an exciting journey. And I would say just don't ever be afraid of technology or anything like that. Dig into it, seek out the knowledge as best you can, and apply it, and just go all in to what you're passionate about. And it takes time to get to the point to where you are working somewhere where you're passionate about what you do. So you have to do the little things up to that point. But if you keep your eyes on that goal and on that prize, you will definitely get there with the hard work and dedication.
So if one of those students were to ask you how you got there, what sort of preparation would you suggest that they undertake? Like, I presume there's going to be a lot of math and whatever else, but what would you tell them?
Yeah, so the career path to get to where I am, it would start with of course finishing high school and then getting into some type of trade school possibly, or a 4-year college seeking a degree in mechanical engineering, and those are the fields. Design, so engineering design and mechanical engineering are the fields where you can get into this type of technology.
You know, just talking about it and listening to you, I was getting a little uncomfortable, and I say that for me because this old man here grew up in a whole world where none of this ever existed, and the internet and all that was all new to me. I grew up without social media, and still remember our first television, so that's how old I am. And I'm kind of leery of saying, "Oh my God, that's got to be so hard to learn." You got to work, as you say, work so hard and getting yourself ready. But from what you just kind of told me, it's not as quite as scary as it sounds.
No, not at all. And like I said, don't ever be afraid of technology, because there's one thing constant in life, and that is change. And so the change is coming whether you're ready for it or not. So just embrace it, and then learn about it as much as possible, and see how it can add value not only to yourself but your community around you.
That's wonderful. Jason, do you have a final word for folks who may be curious about 3D printers? How would you go about learning about that sort of thing?
The fastest way to really learn about 3D printing and additive manufacturing is probably online. Lots of YouTube videos about it, lots of websites about it. So that would be my advice. Just jump into it like that. You can find all kinds of classes on it and stuff. I took a class at MIT over additive manufacturing, and it was a week-long professionals class. There's a lot of different avenues to learn about additive manufacturing, 3D printing.
Can you make fry bread?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can you make fry bread?
What's funny is that they actually had a 3D printer printing pancakes. So I guarantee you we can make some fry bread.
Oh, boy. Either plastic or metal, either way you want to go. That'd be a new twist in the industry. Well, if you had a word of advice, I know you've kind of said this before, but to young people who are trying to get back in school virtually, and besides the working hard, are there any other secrets or anything they should be aware of or something to look out for?
Yeah, other than work hard, I'd say hold yourself accountable. Own everything you do, and find something you're passionate about, and you'll get it. Don't make any excuses about anything. Just take personal responsibility and go get what you want in life. Meet your goals. Be passionate about something.
All right. Well, Jason Harjo, thank you so much for making time for us here on Mvskoke Radio. I think you set a very good example for young people who are looking for careers and might enjoy working with computers and things like that. So, Juge, we'll talk to you soon, and we'll kind of keep our eye on you.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. It was great to be here.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's Jason Harjo, who works with the John Zink Company and works with 3D printers. I found that kind of an unusual discussion of a profession we don't run across. Lainey, what do you think?
I think that's pretty neat, and actually didn't realize there was 3D printers out there, and it's kind of new to me too, and it's pretty cool how he explained how it worked and such. So.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to take a short pause here, and we're going to try and get a representative from the Mvskoke Freedmen's Association to talk to us about an update in their pursuit of citizenship with the Mvskoke Creek Nation. Stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio here on the Brew here in beautiful downtown Okmulgee. Okay, we're back here on Mvskoke Radio, and we're going to speak with Mr. Eric Giles, who is with the Mvskoke Freedmen's Association, and kind of give us an idea on how their quest for citizenship is going. Good morning, Mr. Giles. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you being with us here.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah, we're in good shape here now. We have got a crowded show here, so we're going to get right to it. First of all, Mr. Giles, who do you represent there? What's your association, your organization there?
So I'm an associate attorney at the law offices of Drummond Woodsum here in Portland, Maine. I'm a full citizen of the Mvskoke Creek Nation. I got my education background at the University of Oklahoma, and I moved to Maine around 2009, 2010, and I received my law degree from the University of Maine and licensed to practice in the Mvskoke Creek Tribal Courts. And I currently am co-counsel on representing Mr. Kennedy and Ms. Grayson on their citizenship case here right now before the Creek District Tribal Court.
And they are the ones who are actually the plaintiffs in the case taking this question forward?
Correct.
All right.
They are, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, they are descendants of Creek Freedman, listed on the Dawes rolls. and their petition is asking the court to declare that the 1866 treaty guarantees Creek Freedman descendants the right to full and equal citizenship, and that Mr. Kennedy and Miss Grayson are eligible for citizenship. We're also asking the court to enjoin any tribal laws that denies Creek Freedman descendants citizenship rights.
Now, with that 1866 treaty saying that these folks are citizens of the tribe, we've found or we've seen that really hasn't been the case. They were never afforded the opportunities of citizenship. Is that correct, sir?
Well, the 1866 Treaty Article 2 guaranteed African Creeks and those freed enslaved persons of African descent, full citizenship rights with equal interest in the soil and equal interest in the treasury. Up until about 1979, with the passage of the Creek Constitution under the Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act, Creek Freedmen were enrolled citizens. But the 1979 Constitution, Article 3, limited citizenship to only those persons who proved descendancy on the Dawes blood rolls. Therefore, the Creek Freedmen were effectively disenfranchised from the tribe, and their citizenship was rescinded.
Now, with
since 1979.
The key word, I think, there is disenfranchised. And can you kind of translate what does it mean? They were denied medical, educational, labor, or other benefits accruing to citizens?
Correct. All those benefits or social programs that we enjoy as Creek citizens, those were no longer available to Creek Freedmen because they were no longer citizens of the tribe. So those, all the IHS services, all of the education programs that we enjoy, they in 1979 they were denied those, and then any future Creek Freedmen that wanted to enroll, their children in the tribe were denied citizenship.
So the benefits that you just alluded to then are what these plaintiffs are seeking. Have they been actively denied access to things like that?
Well, I think what we're really looking for is the enforcement of treaty rights, within Creek Nation. The 1866 treaty was affirmed as a still valid and existing treaty under the McGirt decision, and so that's simply what we're asking here is for the tribe to uphold its obligations according to the 1866 treaty. And what's a concern here is that not only is a population that has a history of being a part of our nation and having significant contributions to that. There are many historical figures that served as Supreme Court justices in our tribal court. They served as attorney generals for the other 5 tribes. They served in very significant roles as diplomats, traveling to Washington, D.C. on behalf of the tribe and communicating, the tribe's concerns during those eras of allotment. That is something that's been lost here. But and the descendants are being denied the full rights that all tribal citizens enjoy. But also, every day that Creek Freedmen are not enrolled or are not citizens, the tribe is in violation of the 1866 treaty. And as I said, the McGirt decision upheld the treaty, and so that obligation is still there on behalf of our nation to adhere to the 1866 treaty. treaty. There's another concern here too. Is not only could it be argued that we are in violation of our treaty under another Supreme Court case, Morton Mancari. The Supreme Court held that American Indians are a bona fide political class belonging to a sovereign government. Therefore, that we're not a race, and what that means is that we're not subject to all of these constitutional, under the U.S. Constitution, these protections against discrimination by race, and that can be undone if someone argues that Creek Nation is engaging in race-based discrimination by denying freedmen citizenship rights. And this relates to the Brackeen, the current Brackeen case trying to overturn the Indian Child Welfare Act, where they're saying that the Indian Child Welfare Act is an unfair racial preference, and tribes are no longer a bona fide political class; they're actually a race, and then that would undo a whole system that protects tribal sovereignty and continues our existence as a separate, independent, sovereign nation. So there are broader concerns here. Not only just the history being lost and a significant population of our people not having citizenship, but what the ramifications could be if we continue to ignore that Article 2 provision of the 1866 treaty.
A lot of people still don't understand the relationship between Native American tribal governments and the federal government. You mentioned the McGurk decision, which underlined the word sovereignty there. And it's important to remind folks that, Native Americans were considered governments at the time. And you don't make treaties between races. You make them between governments. And that's still there. I mean, we've got a Bureau of Indian Affairs, but there is no Bureau of African American or Asian Affairs or any of that. That's a song I've sung several times, I'm sure. But looking in that historical context for a second here, now these freedmen were part of the groups of our peoples that were forcibly moved to the west on the Trail of Tears, correct?
Yes, and I think that's another important point too. And the history shows that when my family came over the Trail of Tears, your family came over. African Creeks were a part of that. They were with us the whole time. I mean, and it's not just, they weren't just slaves. I mean, they were actually, the Upper Creeks and the Lower Creeks. There was a whole mixing going on. So there were families. I mean, you could take, for example, the Grayson family. There was a intermixed blood family of African, European, and Indian that were all together. So there was, African Creeks have been a part of our tribe from the beginning when we moved from the southeast to Indian Territory.
The struggle has been going on for some decades now. I know that in recent years, the same battle had been fought at the Cherokee Nation, and the outcome there was, something that finally was dealt with, and the Cherokee Nation now has to look at this situation. Do you see that same struggle then going on here with the Mvskoke peoples? Is it the same legally?
I think so, yes. But I think we have the position now as a nation to take the lead on this and to handle this through our own systems of justice, our own courts, and our own leadership. We don't need to, litigate this, through the tribal courts as a kind of just a get through the tribal court system, so that the case could be taken to Washington D.C. and have a district court in Washington D.C. decide our treaty rights. I don't agree with that strategy. I want us as a nation to resolve this within our own government and in our own systems of justice. But the Seminole Nation, they tried to remove their freedmen citizens, and the BIA actually took away their federal acknowledgement for a time being, and so that the outcome of continuing to ignore Creek Freedman citizenship or actively remove Creek Freedman or Freedman citizens, that there is more harm that can come from that, as opposed to just doing the right thing and upholding our treaty obligations and embracing our history and declaring that if you can prove descendancy to the Dawes rolls, whether they're blood rolls or freedman rolls, you are entitled to citizenship.
Yeah, that legal terminology is kind of it's quite clear. I would assume, and something that people could use as a defense. Let me ask you, what kind of numbers are we talking about? Has anyone ever done a count on these folks?
Yeah, sure. So the current estimate we have is about 3,000 to 5,000 Creek Freedmen. Certainly there are probably other persons who could prove their descendancy to the Creek Freedman rolls, but that's the current estimate that I've been told.
Now, this question is probably subjective, but do the freedmen uphold Mvskoke traditions? I'm thinking, perhaps ceremonies or churches or language, things like that.
When I was 17, I was working in a mall in Northern Virginia, around Washington, D.C., and my supervisor, when he learned that I was Creek, he was African American, and he pulled out his wallet. He's like, "Look at this! I'm a Seminole. I'm enrolled in the Seminole tribe." And his story was that he would go out to Oklahoma, go out to Wewoka, go out to the stomp grounds. His grandmother was lived out there, and he would be there, and he would participate, and so he was very proud of that heritage that he had. The nation. Where we have traditional grounds, we have Christian churches, and we're a very diverse nation of our heritage, and so there certainly are Creek Freedmen today. They speak Mvskoke. They know their grandparents taught them the language. So this, that there are freedmen who have that traditional background, but then and then they're like everyone else. They go to church on Sunday. It's just the same as any other, I think, Creek citizen.
Sure, we all live that here. One of the objections I've heard about this particular topic, and also with the Cherokees, with the addition of thousands of people to the rolls and clearing the way for them to exercise their rights and benefits, would overload the system, both the educational system, and I think many people were worried about the medical care. already most of our programs are underfunded by the Indian Health Service, which has always been underfunded. And so, what is the response then to I guess the challenges like that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that does is when you have a higher population base, you are, the funding allocations, from the federal government, they take account for that. So, I mean, you would potentially receive additional funding because your population has increased. But that concern or that argument, in the McGirt case, that's exactly what the state of Oklahoma argued, is that, if we allow for the Creek Reservation to be affirmed and continue, and that the federal government has criminal jurisdiction, all of these convictions and prosecutions that we had under the state of Oklahoma, all of them are going to be released, and the sky's going to fall, and it's going to overload the federal prosecutor's office. So those kinds of outcomes, those are just speculation, right? I mean, that doesn't. There's nothing that is concrete about those kinds of arguments. They're just it just adds to a sense of fear that really is not necessary. It's not. You can't prove that, and there's nothing that can't be handled. I mean, our nation, we have 90,000 members now. An additional 3,000 to 5,000. It's not going to overload our system. I mean, we have communities in California. We have, obviously the community here in Oklahoma. So I think that concern that's not a convincing argument to me.
All right, in the last couple of minutes we have here, fill us in on the status of this case. It's still in court. At what level, and where do you go?
Sure. So there's our petition that's right now before the Creek District Court, and we are right now waiting, going through the process now. But there's also a pending case in the Creek Supreme Court under Mr. Graham, who's a Creek Freedman who applies for citizenship. So his case is pending before the Supreme Court. So we have one in District Court and one in the Supreme Court.
All right. Eric Giles, thank you so much for filling us in and kind of bringing us up to date on this particular issue. I'm sure that we're going to want to return and chat with you again once we get a decision from the legal folks.
Okay. Mado.
Mga. All right. Eric Giles with Mvskoke Creek Freedmen's Association. We are going to take another pause here, and then we're going to give us some further information on this year's virtual Diabetes Summit. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio. We've got Tori Seymour online with our health department to give us the latest information on the 2020 Diabetes Summit. Good morning, Tori. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We have spoken already once about this year's summit because of the virus and concerns about health is being conducted in a different fashion.
Yes, we're doing a virtual summit this year. So hopefully more people can attend, which is great.
Now, when we say virtual summit, what is that?
So we are pre-recording all of the sessions. We have 7 different weeks that we're going to be presenting different topics for each of those weeks. And then they're going to be posted with partnership with Mvskoke Media on the YouTube page so that others can view the sessions, people who have pre-diabetes and would like to prevent the diabetes, or currently have diabetes and are trying to manage that and control their blood sugars.
Now, this is the summit will be conducted online by computer, right?
Yes, correct. There's going to be sessions that are going to have PowerPoints associated with them, with us talking in the background about it, as well as I'm doing a cooking demo, which is actually going to be recorded with me actually doing the demo live.
When you say cooking demo, I presume there will not be any fry bread.
There won't be any what?
Fry bread.
Fry bread. No, we're not doing fry bread this year. No, we're doing less mess, less stress chicken sheet pan fajita. So it's going to be a very colorful demonstration, which will look great on camera, hopefully. And the only negative about it being virtual is you can't smell or taste it, which we would normally do in person. You'll have to make it yourself at home.
Okay, well, I hope you and our listeners will forgive me there. I just love talking about fry bread.
Yes.
And actually, when the food sovereignty people were next door, they brought me some on air, and I almost quit the show.
No.
The focus then, again, is prevention and alternatives to many things there. If someone's having to deal with this situation, like myself, are we having to make major changes in lifestyle?
Yeah, so we're just talking about different topics. So our first week is going to be on physical activity, which is great for everybody to increase their physical activity, especially right now since we've been at home more often. I know Kim spoke to you last week about the conference as well as some of her topic, which she's going to be helping out with that. And that topic title is going to be Lifelong Intensity for Activity. So that's going to be something we're going to do through a lifespan of. So it's going to be youth all the way up to our elders trying to increase their physical activity. Week 2, we're going to talk about nutrition. So that's going to be myself and another dietitian, Bree, who are going to be talking about the demo that I've already mentioned. And then she's going to be talking about decoding the nutrition facts label, which, again, we teach to our youth at our summer camps. And then also we teach it to our people with diabetes to help with controlling their blood sugar. So it's going to be good for the whole family as well. That week 3, we're going to talk about diabetes education and talk about diabetes on the go. So with our crazy schedules, especially right now with everybody's routine being so different, how are we going to help with handling our diabetes, blood sugar control, things like that. Week 4 is going to be on foot care, small and simple things that we can do on a daily basis to help with our foot care, and that's going to be with Dr. David Garrett. Week 5 is going to be eyes, and that's going to be Eyes on Diabetes, the title of that one, and that's going to be with Dr. Hollenfield, who is an optometrist. Week 6 is going to be dental and relationship between diabetes and our oral health. And week 7 is going to be stress and coping, and that's going to be addressing stress with Rush Williams is going to be that presenter. So we have a lot of great topics that cover a wide area of what relates to prevention of diabetes as well as people with diabetes.
Right now, I consulted with Bree. She was at the Sapulpa Clinic, and
Correct.
I learned a lot there. Hi, Bree. And we picked up a lot of information. Let me pick out one of those topics that you just ran by. And I mean, it may not be your specialty that you're more familiar with, but you mentioned foot care, and I'm not sure that a lot of people are familiar with some of the let's call them dangers or challenges that are involved there. I know it can go to the point where there might be an amputation involved or something of that nature, but foot care, I mean, how important is it?
It's very important. All of these different areas are important, foot, eye, dental, and those are things we don't usually think about when it relates to diabetes. We usually think of, food and medications and things like that, but we don't always think of the other areas that diabetes affects as well. And so foot care, it's important for, checking daily on your feet, making sure there's no sores or blisters occurring. If there is, you want to get in to see your provider as soon as possible. And I know right now it's a challenge to meet with your provider, especially in person at some of our clinics, but it's important to communicate with your provider. A lot of our providers are doing telehealth visits, and they're visual, so they can, see the foot over the video and kind of see, is that something that they might need to come in to go to the ER or maybe come in for a visit to get it looked at. before it progresses to, like you said, that amputation stage. So we definitely that's what we're here for, is to help with that care, doing those nail care visits, getting those feet looked at on a regular basis before it gets to a bigger issue.
I remember during some of the exams I've had that there was some attention being paid to sensitivity, like they would run a small brush or something across the sole of your foot and saying, did you feel that? And now, what were you looking for? Something going dead on us, perhaps, or losing that nerve sensitivity? What is that?
So we want to have our patients come in for a yearly foot exam with their provider, and that's where they would do those different exams, as well as if you're having any issues with like your nails getting ingrown. We don't want you to try to, we call it, operating on your foot at home, any surgery, bathroom surgery. Call us, get in for a nail care visit to get that taken care of by one of our nail care nurses. But we also, your foot. So we want you to look at your foot, see if there's any kind of blister. Even like a splinter can get in there and get infected and cause a bigger issue. So just examining your foot and making sure there's not anything that can cause a bigger issue on it.
And I understand you mentioned the nail care, which, I've been a participant in that program. And I had mentioned an ingrown toenail, the big toe. And she looked at it and did some trimming and things like that. But, I hadn't associated something like an ingrown toenail with a diabetic condition.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you wouldn't think of, but you definitely want to get that taken care of before it becomes infected or has any other kind of issues. Yeah, definitely.
Right, and as I say, she did trim it and took care of it for me.
Okay.
Luckily, my report is my feet are in good shape, so hopefully I'll be able to grow old and stay on them as I go along. Now, sitting in with me in the studio is one of our reporters, Lainey Hansen, and I think she's got something to ask.
Good morning. One of the topics you talked about was the activities that you'll be doing during one of the weeks. Can you give us an example of some of the activities that you'll be having your participants do?
Sure. So I'll talk a little bit more about my presentation I'm helping out with, which we've already done the recording with the Mvskoke media. So Bree, the dietitian you mentioned at the Sepulpa clinic that you're familiar with, she's going to do a PowerPoint presentation and talk the participants through how to read a nutrition label for overall health as well as for control of blood sugars for people with diabetes. And then it will cut to me, and I'll be in our demo kitchen here at the Okima Clinic, and I'll be actually walking the participants through how to make the recipe step by step for the chicken sheet pan fajitas. And so the participants can stop the recording, get all your supplies out, actually do it with me step by step. And so we can both have a finished meal together at the very end. And we talk about the nutrition information for that recipe, and we'll have that recipe available as well for the participants to have at home. But you can, since it's a video, you can stop it, you can make the recipe with me as you go, and then we have a full meal ready to go at the very end. And the recipe, we try to make it very simple, very easy, and you can use different ingredients that you have at home. So this one's a chicken, but then the veggies and stuff that are on it, I did a tricolor vegetables, but you could do just a green bell pepper if that's what's on sale at your house, at your grocery store, and make that instead, or what you have on hand at your house. So if you have leftover veggies in your fridge, you could throw that on to make with the meal. So it's very easy to accommodate many different households, many different grocery stores, many different seasons. So you can make the recipe whenever you're needing something quick and easy to go.
You spoke about the blood pressure or the blood sugar. What's the normal blood sugar numbers? And if one's blood sugar got too high, what should they do to bring it back down?
So for the recipe that I'll be demoing, it has 32 grams of carbohydrates in it for 2 fajitas, which is going to be like a normal serving size for a meal. And so that's a good range for a blood sugar or for carbohydrates for a meal to help with your blood sugars. And depending on when you're checking your blood sugars is going to be what the number you want to see throughout the day. So a fasting reading, which is going to be 8 hours without eating or drinking, we want that blood sugar to be between about 80 to 130. And then an hour after you eat either a meal or a snack, you want it to be less than 180. 2 hours after, less than 160. And then 3 hours after that meal, back down to that 80 to 130 range. And that's going to give us a good average throughout the day to get that goal A1C, which is a 2 to 3 month average of your blood sugars, of 7%. So that's what our target is for our people with diabetes to have on their lab values, so that we know that they're within better control for their blood sugars. If someone has higher blood sugars, we definitely would encourage them to contact one of our diabetes clinics. We have one in Sapulpa, Coweta, Okmulgee, Eufaula, and then here in Okemah is where I'm at. And talk to us. We can work with you on a lot of different things with our case managers, dietitians, diabetes educators to help with bringing those blood sugars down. Also working with your providers with like medication changes and things like that to help with the blood sugars. But that's a lot of times is, seeing if every day after your evening meal, maybe you're eating a little bit more of your evening meal because that's your largest meal of the day, and you notice your blood sugar goes up. So then that could be something you could work with a dietitian for to see what changes we can make on that evening meal to bring down those blood sugars. Going for a walk a lot of times can help bring down those blood sugars. Making sure you're drinking lots of water, especially right now while it's being so hot, can also help with making sure those blood sugars are staying under control. But, we're looking at long-term, if we're seeing those blood sugars running higher, what can we do to bring those down?
We have heard the word sugar there, several times. And that brings to mind a world without desserts or things like that. Can you probably give us a bit of advice in what sorts of foods to perhaps stay away from or moderate considerably in trying to control blood sugar?
Yeah, so as a registered dietitian, no foods are going to be bad or you have to completely stay away from, but there are going to be foods that are going to make that blood sugar, that blood glucose, another name for blood sugar, go up. And so we just want to look at the whole meal running and see what will fit best within your meal planning, which is what our dietitians at each of our clinics can definitely help you with. So I encourage you to reach out to one of our wonderful dietitians to help you with those food changes. But, of course, we think of sugary foods are going to affect the blood sugar more, but there's also things that we don't think of a lot of times, like our drink intake. So if you have a regular soda with a meal, that's going to make your blood sugar go up for that meal a lot higher than if you had, say, a water or an unsweet tea with that meal. That's not going to make your blood sugar go up as much. As well as right now, fruit. It's watermelon season, so we love that watermelon, and it's okay to have, but you can't eat half of the watermelon and, your blood sugar still stay within a good range. So we want to watch the portions of those natural sugars in the fruit as well. So it's just looking at the whole meal, the whole snack throughout the day and seeing how it's affecting your blood sugar.
I just cut up a watermelon and put it in the freezer and had some the other day. And oh, boy, was that good. Now, you mentioned the word portions there. That's really significant in trying to control your blood sugar levels. I've heard the phrase, the palm of your hand is about portion size. Can you explain a little bit for us?
Yeah, so the portion of your hand or the palm size of your hand is going to be about 3 ounces of protein, which is what we want to shoot for our meals. A lot of times we eat a lot bigger portion sizes of meat. For example, if you go out to a restaurant, the smallest steak you can usually find on a menu is about 8 ounces, which is, at least double of what you should be having. So about the palm size of your hand is going to be a good portion size for your proteins, which is 3 ounces. And then your grains and your starches are going to vary, but which, again, you could work with a dietitian to help with those portion sizes. Fruit is going to be about a piece of fruit, or a half a cup of fruit is going to be a serving size. Milk is going to be about a cup or a container of yogurt. But again, those are going to be things you're going to have to read the label for, because chocolate milk is going to have added sugars in it, so that's going to increase the carbohydrates in it. And then same thing with your yogurts. If it's a sweetened yogurt, that's going to increase the carbohydrates in it as well. So that's where the nutrition label information that Bree's going to go over in her presentation is going to really help with learning what to look at on the nutrition label. I have a lot of patients that say they read the label, but they don't know exactly what to look at to make those better changes. So that's where this information is going to be helpful, is how to compare labels, or once we are reading the label, what do we need to look at to see if this is a good choice or not? And then you have to pair that with everything else you're having with that meal or snack to see if it fits within your carb range.
Finally, in the last minute or two we have, how would someone access this virtual summit? Where would you find it?
Yes, so we're going to have 7 weeks of the sessions. It's going to start on August 17th is going to be the week of our first session, which is the physical activity, going through October 2nd. And that's going to be posted on the Mvskoke Media YouTube page. So if you have not already, go and follow that page, subscribe to it so you can get those updates whenever those presentations are posted. And then we're also going to be sending out registration forms to all of our past participants of the Diabetes Summit, so that they can get that registration form and fill it out, so that once all of the sessions have been presented, they can do a post survey to receive a goodie bag. So that's another incentive for watching all of these videos, is that if you fill out the registration and post survey, then you can get a goodie bag from us as well.
Great. Tori Seymour, thank you so much for helping us out today, and hope that a lot of our citizens will participate. And folks, there's another good reason to go to the Mvskoke Media page. Okay. But Tori, we'll keep our eye on it and keep us informed. But
thank you for having me.
all right, that's going to have to do it for us this week here on Mvskoke Radio. So thank you for checking us out here. Mado Mabu Hedgitskat, Gary 5 Jaho Jifkados.
Thank you for having me, Gary.
My pleasure. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.